Ruined city, scraps of unidentified objects and strange sounds. The full moon rises above the chaos happening on Earth. Silhouettes with spears are moving somewhere. The main character's name is Jin Khan. Because of the game, he failed the entrance exams countless times. A monster in armor with a human face smiles mysteriously, surrounded by scarlet flames. On the other side of him are ugly monsters with sparkling eyes. The city is destroyed. There are thousands of monsters in the square. Monstrous dragons fly above them. At the center of the chaos is a monster with a human face. The main character denied true reality, preferring the game world to it. Riding on an armored magical creature, the monster with a human face leads an army of warriors. His figure is followed by scarlet flames. The main character's desire turned the world into hell. Busy city, office centers. South Korea, Seoul, Noryangjin station. Shelf with many compartments with different items. Everything is clean and perfectly arranged. Screams are heard. A group of unknown people asks the guy at the desk if he is the one who calls himself an ardent ally. The whole crowd angrily looking at him. One of them hits the table, demanding from the guy an answer whether he is the one who got their friend. A voice is heard from several desks away. Everyone turns their attention to it. The unknown person ridicules the visitors, calling them losers who burst in like criminals. He shouts mockingly, asking them whether they really came here to make snot. An unknown person sits at a desk. Textbooks and notebooks are open. One leg is without a slap. With a smile, he states that what happened in the game should stay there, and they idiots shouldn't have come here. He invites the group to play against him once, warning that excessive immersion in the game is a disease. This is Jin Khan, the main character. He is 21 years old. He failed the exam countless times. Breaking into a grin, he notices that he had just brought 5 of his partners with him. The main character is bored and invites them to play. The gang leader's face is distorted with anger. The tournament is underway, and the dust of intense battle rises in the center. Those sitting behind the podium rejoice. Actions take place inside the game. Collision arena. Characters of various ranks and classes are passionate about combat. There are magicians, knights, monsters. A character in armor gets wounded, saying out loud that the enemy is too strong. The red flame destroys him. A heavily armored character with a huge sword fell to one knee and seemed unable to continue the fight. The presenter, dressed as a hare, hovers over the arena, marveling at the hero's overwhelming power. The match is 5-5. Addressing the audience, she asks about the possibility of seeing a similar match again. This is NPC Vivian. In other words, the arena's mascot, a representative of the criminal class Legion, a character who wields a scarlet flame with an insidious smile frozen on his face. He shows incredible skills and is a current Major League player. Powerful and strong characters led by him, Noryangjin and his team. The arena's mascot, dressed as a bunny, is delighted with the new leaders. As a result, Noryangjin defeated the Grandmasters. The game chat is filled with conflicting comments condemning the behavior of PRS Vivian. Turning to the audience again, Vivian triumphs, announcing that Noryangjin will now confront the Heavenly Fighters. Currently, the Heavenly Fighters are the #1 team in the top. In this fight, the representative of the Heavenly Fighters has a very difficult time. Most likely, the Night Demon will not be happy and he will definitely not withstand such a fight. Chief Noryangjin grins, asking if they can catch at least one of them. His team is behind him. They all look like the strongest opponents. He continues that because of them, he had to urgently call the team members who were busy here. In the next second, the Night Demon delivers a lightning strike, knocking down the main Noryangjin. Vivian comments that this is impossible. He was attacked and was writhing under the strong attack, ready to fall. With a fierce expression on his face, the Night Demon turns to him, saying that he will definitely lose. He promises to kill at least him. But before he can finish, he grabs his sword. Bleeding and fangs bared, he turns to the enemy, inciting him with the fact that he cannot catch him. The Night Demon is getting more and more angry, but his strength is running out. Vivian exclaims that now he will show his peculiarity. The head of Noryangjin instantly grabs his opponent's face, telling him that he is immortal. The Night Demon's face shows madness and fear. He is holding a gun, scarlet flames surround him, and the same smirk is on his lips. He says that when his health reaches 0, he becomes immortal for a while. No matter what others do, nothing helps. A black mist emanates from the body. The Night Demon is in his power. He is ready to kill him. Black fog swirls around the figure. Smiling madly and already celebrating his victory, the head of Noryangjin tells the enemy that he held up well. But such a load is incredibly harmful to his mental health. He makes his final attack, shooting the Night Demon. The character is reset to 0, disintegrating into small particles. He continues to emit black fog energy, destroying everything in its path. Everything is burning with a scarlet flame. Opponents are being destroyed one by one. His yes become wild, glowing yellow. The collision arena flares up with scarlet flames. A stream of black fog rushes into the sky. The computer monitor displays the game. This is victory. The main character is told that he easily defeated them and most likely I will curse him for this. Behind him, the guys are angry about losing, while he relievedly replies that they are just incompetent idiots. He laughs at their name and wonders why there was so much noise from these heavenly ones. As Jin Khan promised, they were defeated. There is a sign above the game room. The winners rise to the top. Jin Khan invites his partners to go on a night raid. They agree, saying that they just need to gather more guys. Leaving the game room, Jin Khan wants to light a cigarette, but suddenly he and his friends stop, frozen in surprise. In front of them is a pink-haired girl. She looks at them disapprovingly, crossing her arms in a disapproving gesture. Jin Khan curses and thinks to himself that he is finished. Friendly Jin Khan asks the girl what brought her here. He raises his hand with a cigarette in a conciliatory gesture, but his girlfriend still seems to frown. Jin Khan cannot understand why she showed up right in front of the computer club. His partners hurriedly leave the meeting place while Jin Khan suppresses an awkward smile. Ki-Rai asks why the main character left the computer club. Jin Khan apologetically replies that he is currently on a break between classes and decided to rest. Ki-Rai looks at him seriously and says that she just left the office and he wasn't there. Sweat runs down the guy's face and he curses to himself that he got into such a situation. The city lives its own life. The streets are filled with people, there are a lot of cars. The day is in full swing. In one of the coffee shops, someone ordered a piece of cake and 2 drinks. Under Ki-Rai's gaze, Jin Khan drinks his coffee with a guilty look. He doesn't take his eyes off his glass, thinking hard about what to say. Finally, he dares to look up at the girl. Ki-Rai is 21 years old, a student, and also Jin Khan's childhood friend. The main character plucks up courage and already asks why Ki-Rai doesn't drink his Americano, but is immediately interrupted. The girl looks unhappy and asks Jin Khan if his auntie knows what he does. Before she can get an answer, she calmly turns to her bag to get her phone. Jin Khan panics, trying to figure out what she's doing. Finally understanding the motive behind Ki-Rai's actions, he hastily, in fear, asks her not to call or tell her aunt about his problems. Ki-Rai remains calm for a minute, but then explodes in a stream of angry words and curses. Angrily, she shouts to the main character that she has already heard all his excuses many times and that it's time for him to take hold of his head if he has even a little shame left in front of his aunt and uncle. The drooping Jin Khan notes to himself that Ki-Rai is back to her old ways. The girl continues to be indignant and tries to get an answer from him when he comes to his senses. She wonders if he's not going to university and will just continue to fool around. Jin Khan's patience is running thin and he clenches his fists in an attempt to contain the storm building inside him. Accusations from his childhood friend continue to rain down on him. To all her remarks he responds quietly, "I understand, I'm sorry." Under the weight of all the reproaches, the main character purses his lips, ready to get angry. He gets up from the table, interrupting Ki-Rai, declaring that he understood her, and that she should not pretend to be his mommy. He's tired of this going on over and over again. Ki-Rai is shocked. The meaning of the words she heard does not immediately reach her. Continuing, Jin Khan advises her to mind her own business, sign up for clubs if she has so much time. He doesn't understand why his childhood friend keeps interfering in his life. Ki-Rai listens silently. Jin Khan begins to seethe, accusing his friend that having entered a good university, she comes to him to brag. He doesn't want to be considered a naive fool. The main character suggests that the girl simply comes to throw out the stress that has accumulated due to her studies on him. There is a short pause and the guy's gaze relaxes. He regrets what he said. The words involuntarily flew out of his mouth in a fit of anger, and unable to control them, now all he feels is regret. Ki-Rai's gaze fills with resentment. She blushes and clutches the handle of her bag. Lowering her head, she quietly confirms that Jin Khan's words are right. After all, she thinks, who is she to say these words? The edge of the wrapping paper in which the gift is wrapped peeks out from the bag. Ki-Rai stands up and turns to leave. The main character, confused and embarrassed, asks her to stop, trying to make amends. Before he leaves, Ki-Rai wishes his childhood friend a happy birthday. She leaves, leaving the guy alone at the table. Jin Khan frantically grabs his hair, blaming himself for what happened. He doesn't understand how he could blurt out such a thing. It's evening, sunset has fallen on the city. The main character thinks that his childhood friend is right about absolutely everything, and that he should stop leading such a lifestyle. Sprawled on the bed, he suspects that because of his pride, he denied Ki-Rai's words all this time. Thinking that everything the girl said was sincere, and he should try, she gets out of bed, turning on the computer. It's time for a raid. Sitting down in a chair, he notices with a satisfied smile that everyone is already at the roadstead. There is swearing and lively conversation in the chat. Jin Khan says to himself that his partners are behaving as usual. He smokes slowly before the game starts, feeling alive. The phone vibrates near the ashtray. While playing, Jin Khan answers the call. On the other end they ask how Ki-Rai is doing. There are things scattered all over the room and lockers are not closed. Jin-Kon's friend asks a couple more questions. On the table are the report cards for September, 4 in Korean, 7 points in English. When asked about Ki-Rai, Jin-Kon replies that she is doing well. On the other end, they wonder if the girl has always been so smart and confident. The main character's attention is on the game. His palm squeezes the mouse. Playing enthusiastically, the guy thinks that meaningless conversations have begun again. An ordinary guy, Jin-Kon, goes to school, looking at a textbook and frankly wondering what kind of nonsense is written there. 2 years ago, he lived the life of a man who was preparing for entrance exams. Although it sounds implausible, at that time the protagonist's grades reached the best universities in Korea. Jin-Kon helped with Ki-Rai's tasks, explaining difficult points to her. He could get into a prestigious university in Seoul, and his grades were much higher than those of his childhood friend. He was popular, his desk was surrounded by classmates. Jin-Kon was a role model because he was tall and handsome, and also a good student. He was shocked when he came across an entertaining game. It's hard to believe that such an amazing guy had a great test. Main game. Many different heroes and characters with unique abilities were in this game. Jin-Kon began to come to his friends' playrooms to play. He always liked games, but at that time his head was full of lessons, extracurricular activities, and home. The guy was too busy. Gradually, the game began to capture the main character. He could not tear himself away from the screen. Whether this is due to the effects of stress after the entrance exams or because he was told not to play, but he became even more addicted to it, no one knows. From that moment on, he began to spend all his time behind the screen, becoming addicted to the game. Even during exams, in front of the teachers, he still thought about how he would attack the boss. Every time the main character closed his eyes, he imagined his character in battle. This was a bad sign and Jin-Kon failed the exam. Coming out of the gates of the educational institution, while everyone was rejoicing, he thought about the need to sign up for a retake. The main character, standing in front of Noryangjin station, thought to pull himself together and sit down to study. He was disappointed and shocked when he realized that this was not a suitable place to study. He went there to study, but people there did everything except study. This made him angry. Noryangjin was a place for entertainment, and there was a computer club nearby. A huge number of people gathered at their computers and spent a lot of time on them, not rushing home. If you come with friends, you will most likely have to sit separately or even find another place. This is what happened to Jin-Kon and his friends. Despite this, the main character remained there for a long time, without wasting time on sleep. This computer club at Noryangjin Station had the biggest sales in Seoul. The main character wanted to study here, but in the end all he did was visit places of entertainment. Remembering the past, Jin-Kon sat on a chair and smoked, sticking one leg out the window. The competition for one place in exams is 33-1 and there are about 30 people who are the same students as himself. He puts out his cigarette on the ashtray and stretches his muscles, thinking that there is no place in the world where he can feel both joy and sadness at the same time. Sitting in a small, simple room, he talks about how he realized one important truth when he moved here. Here, activities are equated with entertainment and weak-willed people like him never learn. Glancing blankly at the computer, he just wants to play the game all day. He wants the game to become a reality. Perhaps in reality Jin-Kon is a loser, but in the game he is high-ranking, a strong contender with the mighty power of the Black Mist. Leaning back in his seat, he imagines his character and rejoices in the fact that in the game he is able to dominate the heavenly idiots. Slowly, Jin-Kon falls asleep with the thought of tomorrow's exam. His sleep is interrupted by the vibration of his phone. He grabs it, not understanding what is happening. Nobody calls. Looking at the screen, he sees a message about a state of emergency due to the appearance of an unidentified monster on the Mapo Bridge in Yongyunpo. Arching an eyebrow sarcastically, he thinks his friends have learned to joke through their official sources. A sudden loud sound makes him jump and run to the window. The main character's anxiety level increases when outside the window he sees a city engulfed in flames. The sky is illuminated by the flames of explosions and one gets the feeling that an apocalypse has fallen on the world. Jin-Kon, frightened into the void, asks the question of what happened and how this could happen. He hastily puts on a windbreaker and runs out of the apartment, shouting that he doesn't want to go to the front. Residential buildings and offices in the Noryangjin area are under attack. Everything is on fire. People are running in different directions, trying to escape. The main character runs in the direction of the fire. Someone from the frightened crowd shouts that monsters are coming. Jin-Kon, watching what is happening, cannot believe his own eyes. In front of him, a huge monster destroys everything around, destroying both people and houses. Powerful blows cause houses to collapse, and the shock wave blows people away. The main character is trying to hide from flying stone debris. For a second he imagines that he has already seen similar creatures somewhere. People are panicking and trying to escape from the raging monsters. Flying creatures cover people, blocking any attempts to escape. A whole crowd of scary creatures are chasing after one man. Jin-kan sees how they drag him away, unable to help in any way. The main character understands that all creatures and monsters are characters in the game. A huge creature, the size of a skyscraper, cuts through offices, turning everything into splinters. This is the cannibal one-eyed ogre, a level 15 monster. In the chaos, trying to escape, someone calls the main character. This is Ki-Rai. While running and dodging debris, he screams into the phone, asking if she's okay. The voice on the phone asks for salvation. The main character is overcome by fear, and in hysterics he asks Ki-Rai where she is now and why she is crying. Everything instantly turns scarlet, and it seems that there is no salvation. Ki-Rai replies that the sudden appearance of the bosses made her very scared. A huge monster advances, crushing people under it. The main character was thrown right at his feet. He tries to get up, but cannot because of the pain. Jin-kan is hiding behind a piece of stone, peeking out from behind it. He understands what kind of monster this is. The one-eyed ogre cannibal is a giant who has no intellectual abilities and hunts people. His vision radius is limited. The ogre poses the biggest threat by throwing people into its mouth. The main character, remembering Ki-Rai, tries to get up. He tries to stop the bleeding from the wound. After unlocking the phone, he realizes that Ki-Rai is not answering the call. His face depicts anger and fear at the same time. Orc continues to destroy people in the city. Jin-kan runs further, dialing Ki-Rai and getting angry that she's not answering. It is becoming more and more difficult to run. The wound is bleeding and hurting. The main character squirms with every movement. The city is in chaos. The orcs captured the overturned truck and attacked the people. Someone's cry for help is heard. Ki-Rai tries to escape from the hands of the orcs, begging for at least someone to come to the rescue. She is thrown back and hits the rubble hard. One of the orcs grabs her by the hair, swinging his blade. At the same second, it is cut in half, and the upper part flies off from Ki-Rai. Jin-kan eliminates the other orcs with powerful blows, saving Ki-Rai. The girl awaits her death in tears, but seeing that her childhood friend has come to the rescue, she sighs with relief. Frightened, the main character asks if she is injured. Ki-Rai hangs on the savior's neck with happiness, crying. Hugging her friend, Jin-kan is glad that she is safe. Something strange appears in the air near them. These are windows with information that the smiling angel orc was killed and the hero received 50 experience points. Jin-kan recalls to himself that the same windows popped up in the game. Monsters continue to occupy Seoul. Their numbers are increasing. Ki-Rai and Jin-kan hid behind one of the walls. The girl asks about the strange sound. The main character replies that perhaps this is an alarm and everyone has begun to be evacuated. Casually, he wonders why his friend called him. Ki-Rai doesn't understand this stupid question and drags him away from his hiding place, saying that he is injured. In one of the hospital rooms, Jin-kan asks how everything could have come to this. The main character is in pain while his childhood friend bandages him. She says that she immediately suspected something was wrong when Jin-kan said about the hospital. He just screams that he is in pain. Bloody bandages are not neatly scattered on the table. The girl notices that thanks to her training as a doctor, in her opinion, she treated him well. The main character reproaches her for not even completing 2 years of schooling. Having finished the work, Ki-Rai asks the hero about further actions. Jin-kan offers to observe the situation from the windows of the hospital. It is unsafe to be outside due to the large concentration of monsters. Jin-kan suggests that in the event of such a disaster, a helicopter with rescuers would be sent. Throwing on a windbreaker, he is confident in his thoughts. Ki-Rai wants to grab some medicine, but sees a helicopter approaching through the window. An explosion occurs in the building. Orcs and monsters have captured all the streets and continue to exterminate people. Residents are in panic trying to save their lives. The authorities announce an air raid alert due to unidentified monsters and order them to go to the basements. Children, men and women are running away from the invasion, little understanding what is happening to their city. After the explosion, the hospital building is on fire. The main character and Ki-Rai are saved. Jin-kan covered the girl with himself, taking the blow. Rising, he worriedly asks if she is safe. Ki-Rai responds positively, shaking in fear. The two of them look at the wreckage of the crashed plane. It turns out to be a military helicopter. The girl's eyes freeze in fear. She tells her friend to look ahead. It flew into one of the buildings and it begins to collapse. The upper half of the high-rise falls directly on civilians. This is building number 63. Screams are heard that everyone was going to cover. Military helicopters are trying to confront a huge spider-like monster. He instantly gets rid of them by attacking with his tentacles. Another building is about to fall. This is a level 48 purple pack. He is a powerful monster of gigantic size with steel tentacles that can stretch to any distance. The creature has a humanoid body on its head, which is presumably its base. He climbs the building and from its height continues to exterminate people with his tentacles. Military artillery fires at the monsters. They're getting closer. We hit only small orcs with fire. The offensive does not stop. The commanders order to hold the line of defense. With one swing, the monster smashes everything around into pieces. Cars fly off in different directions. Kirai covers her mouth with her hand at what she saw, and Jin-Khan's face is filled with horror mixed with panic. Suddenly, the building they are sitting near shakes. The ground is disappearing from under your feet. A huge monster grabs the top of the structure and rips it out. Jin-Khan falls. Kirai grabs his hand and implores him to hold on tight. The main character looks down, slowly realizing that there is zero chance of escape. The girl does not give up trying to raise him. He yells at Kirai to let him go. She resists, but Jin-Khan continues to insist, saying that if she doesn't let go, they will fall together. A tearful childhood friend tells him to shut up. At this point, the main character thinks that it was in vain that he suggested finding a hospital. Everything starts to collapse at a rapid speed. Jin-Khan shouts to Kirai to leave quickly if she wants to stay alive. He unhooks his hands from hers, saying that everything that happened is not her fault and asks for forgiveness. The girl begs him not to give up trying to escape. Jin-Khan falls. The girl lets him go. Tears roll down her cheeks. She continues to scream something. While falling, the main character is sure that his childhood friend was sincerely ready to save him. Ready to die with a smile on his face. He is sorry that everything will end like this. It seems to him that even though he has lived such a meaningless life, the emptiness in his soul makes itself felt. Everything led him only to death. He still sees Kirai at the edge of the rift. There is not a single thought in Jin-Khan's head. He will miss his mother and thinks that she will be outraged when she finds out about her son's death. The main character's face shows regret. He reflects that he would not be so ashamed in front of his mother if he went to university. But it was all in vain. The game was to blame for everything. Because of her, Jin-Khan's life went downhill and he will die, apparently, also at the hands of mobs from the game. Suddenly his thoughts are interrupted by an idea. He remembers the revival skill right before hitting the ground. The bloodied and lifeless body freezes. The monster continues to destroy the building. Kirai unhooks herself from the piece of slab that saved her. While flying, she grabs the wire, trying with all her might not to fall. The orcs approach the corpse of the main character. Kirai is still hanging in the air. A sign appears above Jin-Khan's body telling of the activation of the class feature, Immortality. The monster throws the top of the building. Black fog appears around the main character's body. Part of the building, on one of the wires of which Kirai is hanging, is ready to fly into the building opposite. Holding tightly to her last hope of escape, Kirai screams heart-rendingly. Jin-Khan's eyes light up with a scarlet flame. The buildings collide with crushing force and burst into flames. The girl closes her eyes in fear, expecting her death. But when nothing happens, she opens her eyes and realizes that she was saved. The character Jin-Khan holds her in his arms while everything around him is filled with his magical power. The girl recognizes her friend and cannot understand what happened to him. The guy realizes that this is his game appearance. He reaches out his hand, resting against one of the rubble. With a powerful blow from the main character, the stone scatters. As in the game, signs with the names of attacks, skills, and weapons pop up. Jin-Khan used the flaming grip of demonic hands. He understands that all this is the equipment of his character. The Praedelmos pistol appears in his hand. The monster targets them, ready to strike. The main character shoots at him with a magic pistol, blowing off the monster's hand. Jin-Khan's eyes light up with an ominous fire. Kirai is shocked by what she sees. The main character, in the guise of his character, leaves the girl, telling her to wait. He goes into battle, holding two pistols, with scarlet fog around him. Jin-Khan becomes like a monster. An activation sign for the criminal class appears, Complete Reset. This skill involves the ability to fire two pistols using all of your active power. It also applies debuffs to enemies hit by the skill based on its buff. The main character carries out powerful attacks using the full nullification skill. The monster is torn into pieces, an explosion of powerful energy occurs, and the entire space is filled with scarlet flame. Kirai screams in fear. Being behind her friend's back, it is difficult for her to believe what is happening. A sign pops up with information about the player, Noryangjin, commander of the Red Bat Special Corps. He is ranked 6th in the world rankings of active players. Smiling madly and sparkling with his eyes, he is sure that all the monsters won't have much time left. Towering over the monsters and the chaos that they created, he tells them that he doesn't care how many they are or how many more of the same will arrive. Holding a Praedelmos pistol, he promises to destroy them all. Scarlet flames wrap around his figure. Suddenly a voice is heard asking what Jin-Khan is doing. The main character is amazed. The voice continues that there was an order for all corps commanders to return. They were ordered not to attack. A mysterious figure freezes in the sky above Jin Khan. This is the Lord of the Death Legion, Ereshkigal, known as the Undead, belonging to the Celestials. The girl has a majestic appearance, lightning thunders around her. Jin Khan is shocked by the appearance of the Death Legion Lord. No matter how strong and high-ranking he is, it is impossible to defeat the raid boss alone. Ereshkigal looks down on the main character. She is a heavenly NPC and a top-level raid boss. It seems impossible for the guy to defeat her. Jin Khan's thoughts are interrupted by Ereshkigal's attack sliding past him, but hitting Chi-Rai straight. There is a splash of blood behind the main character. Chi-Rai falls, calling for a friend. Jin Khan reacts instantly, flying up to her friend. The raid boss looks contemptuously and says that she warned her not to carry out any orders without her permission. She orders all commanders to return to the castle and destroy all living beings. The main character holds Chi-Rai in his arms, seething with anger. His eyes light up with hellish anger. He moves to Ereshkigal, intending to attack and take revenge. She is surprised by his behavior. Dark magical forces summon several seals, and chains fall from them. Ereshkigal attacks Jin Khan, impaling his entire body with chains. The main character is in agony. One of the chains has squeezed his throat and he is suffocating. Monsters with huge swords emerge from the seals. With a stream of powerful energy they aim at Khan. The blow hits him and knocks him down. Ereshkigal stands by the body of the defeated man, telling him that he will not tolerate disobedience to her orders. She is at a loss as to how he dares to attack her, and asks the hero if he knows the reason for his existence. Cursing Ereshkigal, Jin Khan looks towards Chi-Rai, mentally asking her for forgiveness. Chi-Rai dies. Suddenly the scene is illuminated with a soft pink color. All eyes are directed towards him. Ereshkigal watches with interest. Chi-Rai is surrounded by a pink, feather-like substance. It envelops her entire body, covering her stomach, arms, chest. A tail appears from behind. Chi-Rai turns into a character in the game. She gets ears and changes clothes. The main character is surprised that Chi-Rai can transform too. Signs appear around the frightened girl. On her arms she wears level 60 equipment Dance of the Fluttering Petals, and her upper body is in the equipment Dance of the Peaceful Lake. Khan recalls asking for Chi-Rai's passport information when his gaming account was blocked. He registered with the girl's details. It saved her life. The next minute, everyone is surprised. Chi-Rai asks what is happening. Ereshkigal silently watches. The bodies of the dead people are illuminated with light. They begin to come to life, taking on the appearance of their characters. They look at their bodies in surprise, unable to believe that they are wearing the equipment of their characters. The number of those reborn is growing. Jin Khan does not believe that all the killed people have come back to life, and that they all have accounts. Ereshkigal notices that there are many more users here than she thought. A magical sphere lights up in her palm. Then a portal appears opposite the main character. Chi-Rai's hands start to dissolve and she asks what's going on. All those revived begin to disappear under the power of the portal. Death Legion Lord Ereshkigal activates a mass teleporter. Two portals opposite each other, under the leadership of Ereshkigal, continue to teleport the Reborn. Jin Khan opens his eyes in fear. Chi-Rai holds him by the shoulder and asks if he is okay. The main character pats his friend's cheeks, saying that she scared him. The girl screams that she is in pain. Patting his childhood friend on the head, Khan is glad that she is safe. The only unknown is where they are now. A huge hall with columns, people around are at a loss. Khan, this place seems familiar. An unidentified object with remnants of Ereshkigal's magic is visible high in the sky. This is Kernuja, the Garden of Death, Ereshkigal Castle. It is known for its difficulty. Chi-Rai excitedly asks who Ereshkigal is. The main character replies that it is a girl with horns who pierced him with a spear. Looking around, Khan wonders where she disappeared, suspecting that the raid boss might have gone to the castle. Chi-Rai calls the guy's name, interrupting his flow of guesses. She wonders what this place is and if Jin Khan knows anything about what is happening. The girl looks extremely worried. She asks the guy to explain everything to her. Jin Khan rubs his chin thoughtfully, wondering what to answer. He says that perhaps the game has become a reality. A hall with many other players, reincarnated as their characters, opens in front of them. Jin Khan continues that since the game has become a reality, now everyone can be revived after death, provided that you are a legionnaire and have an account in the game. He gives an example of the moment when he fell and at that moment turned into a monster, which was his character in the game. Legionnaires are called users of the game, an analogy with fantasy, where there are heroes, adventurers, etc. Chi-Rai is angry because her friend used her data for the game. She begins to foolishly beat him. The main character tries to hide from the attacks, covering particularly exposed areas of the costume. The girl says that she never knew about this game, and then suddenly found herself in this strange clothes. The main character convinces her not to worry about her appearance and concludes that the main thing is that she remained alive. Other players look for help and an explanation of what is happening. Perhaps they are here for the same reason as Ki-Rai and Kon. They were definitely killed in Noryangjin, then resurrected. Looking around the crowd, Jin Kon is amazed at how many there are and recognizes some of them as those he saw in Noryangjin. He sees a strong-looking character. This is the best of 21. This special title is given to those who occupy places from 1st to 21st in the world rankings. Jin Kon gets angry, realizing that there are 12 people with titles here. He notes with annoyance that none of them can learn what the guys from Noryangjin can do. At this second, the dark gates open. Everyone freezes in anticipation. Ereshkigal emerges from them. Chi-Rai notices her, the main character, as if reading her thoughts, confirms that she is the owner of the highest rank of Lord of the Legions among all raid bosses. Among other things, her race is undead, she is very strong. Ereshkigal looks blankly at all the survivors, ordering them to kill each other. Some players do not believe what they hear, wondering if they are being told. One of the youngest participants says that he wants to go home. His face expresses fear. The raid boss, sitting on the throne, says that now their legion, by joining forces with others, will be able to expand their territories. Ereshkigal declares war. Continuing, she says that they need more soldiers. A powerful command force is needed to rule. People listen to her, not daring to move. They are the soldiers who will lead the army. The words spoken leave people in shock and anger. Ereshkigal adds that all this is feasible if they survive. The menacing face of the raid boss does not express the slightest emotion. An information table appears in front of the participants. Questions are pouring in from different corners of the room. People, gripped by fear, read their first mission. Ki-Rai can't help but look at her questioningly as Kon reads the contents of the quest. The task is that the participants need to survive until the end of the quest and become members of the raid party. Ki-Rai asks about what a raiding party is. Tensely rubbing his chin, Jin Kon explains that raids are formed from a certain number of participants who cooperate into one team and try to catch a strong monster. The main character notices that there are restrictions on the number of people, no more than 8 people in each squad. Kon thinks it's more like survival. Several hundred people are gathered in one place under the control of Ereshkigal. Jin Kon is in a panic. The realization of all the horror befalls him. Typically, squads are formed based on the data of a user registered on the site or at the discretion of the commander. But just getting a quest task, it becomes like a survival game. In addition, Ereshkigal spoke of some kind of power. Perhaps this is about celestial enemies with different strengths and abilities. Nervously thinking further, Jin Kon realizes that their goal is not territorial expansion, but to gain power and overthrow the Great Romulus. The main character remembers what the strongest looks like. He has no face, his whole body resembles continuous fog, covering Chi-Rai. He privately believes that Ereshkigal's plan is a real crime. When Jin Kon's squad went on a raid on Romulus, he played 5 nights in a row and therefore could not pass the exam. The Reincarnated begin to rebel, saying that this is not funny. They are outraged that they were first kidnapped and then began to give strange orders. The rebels are becoming more and more. They ask Ereshkigal what benefit they have from being here. They express their dissatisfaction with the current conditions and demand to be released. The raid boss listens to attacks against her. Half of her face is darkened by an evil shadow. Someone shouts that she will do without expanding territories. Students dressed as their characters complain that they had an exam today. Ki-Rai and Jin Kon are watching from behind the wall. The main character does not understand what they are doing, calling them idiots. Jin Kon tells Ki-Rai not to move, thinking that all these people have no idea about Ereshkigal and are only causing trouble. The raid boss loses his patience as he looks at the protesters with hatred. One of them looks at her, shaking with fear. Ereshkigal uses his power to summon creatures with swords. They cut through everyone who is within the arena. Jin Kon hugs Ki-Rai to himself, shielding her from the fight. The raid boss touches some kind of sphere. She complains about how noisy everyone is. The magic of Ereshkigal continues to attack people. Someone is trying to fight back. Fierce fighting takes place around the columns. Legion Lord Ereshkigal activates silent mode. This is a skill that radiates energy to all objects within its radius, creating silence. A silenced target cannot use skills for some time. The table reads. Ereshkigal rests his chin on his hand, intending to say something. The people below continue to suffer from her magic, but they cannot say anything. She turns to the Legionnaires and says that their salvation was a one-time action, and there will be no second chance. I keep attacking people. Some are hiding, like Chi-Rai and Jin Kon. Some try to resist, others simply run away. Sitting on the throne and arrogantly observing everything that is happening, Ereshkigal explains that the old world no longer exists. And what happened to Seoul? Very soon this fate awaits every city outside this castle. Legionnaires are trying to resist the magic of the raid boss. The next territory to be occupied by the Ereshkigal army will be Daejeon. The first detachment will go there. Jin Kon is amazed by what he heard. Ki-Rai looks helplessly at the protagonist, seething with anger. He can't believe that their next target is Daejeon. Looking at the torment of the Legionnaires, Ereshkigal announces that he is giving 30 minutes for the number of those present to be reduced to 40 people. A force field of unknown magic suddenly appears in front of her. It strikes the magic of Ereshkigal, saving the Legionnaires. The raid boss, surrounded by alien magic, looks at the main character. Jin Khan sarcastically praises her wonderful plan to get rid of her enemies using the power of people. The Reborn are surprised by the resistance. The table says that the criminal class skill, Eclipse, is activated. It teleports the caster and allows them to disappear for a short time. Jin Khan's magic awakens and he becomes his character from the game. He asks the raid boss if she has thought about the uprising of the people she was going to use. The main character stands opposite Ereshkigal. The surprised Chi-Rai sits at a distance. The main character thinks that she needs to be stopped right now, before she starts attacking Dijin, because his whole family is there. The confrontation between the raid boss Ereshkigal and the commander of the Special Corps Red Bat Noryangjin begins. A huge flying object resembling a bird appeared in the sky over the center of Seoul. People below are watching him. The presenter's voice announces that the city is now in a great disaster. Unidentified monsters have taken over houses, offices, streets and continue to destroy the city. Seoul is engulfed in fire and chaos, with an object that looks like an arena with a large concentration of magic hovering above it. The authorities sound an air raid warning, and the broadcast continues with monsters rumored to have captured Seoul and are rapidly moving south to Cheonan. People are running away from the city. People are ordered to evacuate. Residents quickly leave their cars and run. In a panic, the girl runs after the woman with the child, urging her not to go towards Seoul. Catching up with her, she says that the monsters have already reached Cheonan. A woman holding a child in her arms is in tears. The little girl also begins to cry from the girl's screams. A woman furiously screams that she cannot evacuate because she does not know where her son is. She tells the girl to go to Busan for her father, and she will go to Seoul for her son. The girl continues to press, trying to reason with her mother. She tells her that there is nothing for her to do in Seoul, because it is infested with monsters. The daughter grabs her mother by the shoulders, saying that Jeong most likely evacuated and she shouldn't put herself in danger. Inwardly, the girl desperately hopes that he is okay. Tears appear in her eyes. Looking at the sky, she asks him to be okay. Numerous blood stains. Ereshkigal watches from his place contemptuously what is happening. The main character, without having time to make an attack, finds himself in magical chains. Ereshkigal looks at the barrel of the gun pointed directly at her and asks about the raid. She wonders if they really dared to organize a raid against her. Jin Khan clenches his teeth angrily. Creatures with huge swords, summoned by Ereshkigal, attack the hero from all sides. Dust rises. Energy-charged stones fly towards Jin Khan. A powerful explosion occurs in the arena. Everything is engulfed in flames. The Legionnaires are horrified that they decided to defeat the mistress of the Legion alone. Someone is sure that the attacker has gone crazy. Chi-Rai watches in fear, listening to the conversations around her. It appears that Ereshkigal was supposed to be the boss for the next chapter. Another suggests that it hasn't even been opened yet. The silhouette of the main character is visible in a cloud of dust. Someone makes a guess that they will die in agony. Chi-Rai rushes towards her friend, screaming his name. One of the Legionnaires recalls that somewhere he saw someone who dared to attack a raid boss. Chi-Rai picks up the main character. He is bleeding all over. Above them is the warrior summoned by Ereshkigal. Turning to her, he asks if she needs to get rid of him. Ereshkigal is thinking. Pressing the button, she says that this is not necessary and announces the beginning of the quest. A rift appears in one of the walls, and a portal appears behind people's backs, beginning to suck them in. Everyone is trying to run away, but many still continue to be dragged away by the portal. Someone says that this is a spatial rift. Strong players are also starting to be attracted. There is a cry that no one should go into it, otherwise everyone will die. With incredible force, the Legionnaires are sucked into the spatial rift. Someone is begging for salvation. The main character and Chi-Rai also begin to be attracted. Jin Khan thinks about where he will throw them all. The arena empties, dust and debris are everywhere. A blue flame lights up. Chi-Rai opens her eyes, trying to make at least some sound. Jin Khan, reincarnated as Noryangjin, asks the girl if she is okay. Holding her head, she answers positively. The main character watches her worriedly. There is a scream. Chi-Rai and Khan turn towards the sound. The monster attack begins. The hero recognizes the revived flamingos. They were originally calm animals, but due to the influence of the temple poison, they became aggressive after being revived. Is an anomalous undead with nothing but instincts. Jin Khan muses that if there is a flamingo here, then this must be the instance dungeon known as the Temple of Casarax. He doesn't understand why this particular location from the very beginning. The Legionnaires are trying to escape from the revived flamingos. Chi-Rai asks about the instance dungeon. Jin Khan explains that unlike regular dungeons where monsters simply wander around, These are special dungeons that can only be completed after defeating the boss of each stage. There are more and more revived flamingos. The main character asks if he explained about raid groups. He continues by saying that instance dungeons are designed to be completed by groups, not individuals. Flamingos continue to attack people. Instance dungeons are difficult because until you complete them, you will not escape. The main character becomes serious. Kirai asks again and cannot believe what was said. Jin-Kan understands that this is survival, and this dungeon is just the beginning. A sign appears that says you have entered the instance dungeon, Temple of Casarax. Participants must complete the dungeon and remain the last survivor of the team. Jin-Kan thinks that more people are needed to defeat the boss. He joins the fight by activating the cheating professional skill Mozambique Drill. This skill makes it possible to fire 3 shots at a time at the enemy's weak point at very high speed. The main character hits one of the flamingos. He falls to the ground with a crash. Jin-Kan orders the survivors to divide the healers and players into 2 groups. Some will help players and tanks, while others will protect healers while they help tanks. Everyone listens carefully to Jin-Kan, full of determination. He tells them to use all the skills, summons, and weapons they can remember. Different windows with skills and equipment, you can simply imagine them or say them out loud. The main character commands that if they do not want to die, they should do everything in their power and not ask stupid questions. Shirai was given the order to take the healers and wounded back to heal them. She carries out the order while the main character stands in front of one of the flamingos. She heals one of the wounded. Flamingo charges in and Jin-Kan yells for everyone to get into position if they want to stay alive. He orders the tanks to wait in their positions. They stand in a bunch and don't move. The main character asks why they are just standing there. They can't believe that everything is really happening. They are scared. Jin-Kan attacks the flamingo, saving the others. Enraged, he calls them idiots and does not understand why they did not listen to his order and did not start tanking. A bright flash eclipses the battlefield. Jin-Kan looks at the people running away in fear. They don't want to die. They don't understand how to defeat the flamingos. They run away in panic. The remaining healers and DD are perplexed by their cowardice. They ask why they are running away. They answer that let them fight on their own, without them. Jin-Kan silently calls them stupid. If they don't all win together, they'll just die. Suddenly he feels something strange. Blood is gushing from his mouth. Feeling terrible pain all over his body, comparable to the loss of limbs, he falls to the ground. The table shows that the main character's strength is running out. He suspects that this is due to the damage to Ereshkigal. Typically, the lower the HP, the closer the character's body is to the limit. Jin-Kan realizes that the transformation is working and he loses his appearance. He notices that his body is not listening. Those who desperately wanted to escape continue to leave the battlefield, but they are surrounded by monsters on all sides. They can't escape. One of the flamingos will attack Chirai. The main character sees this and shouts her name. Someone takes off and launches an attack, destroying all the flamingos. Jin-Kan, Kirai, and everyone else stand surprised by such a strong blow. The hero lands and says that those who run away will achieve nothing. Standing at the head of his guild, he says that everything needs to be done quickly. He has no room for helpless legionnaires. Grinning, he concludes that this is survival. A sign with a hero appears. This is Shingle, commander-in-chief of the Blue Jackal Army. He is level 60, is a Yaksha and belongs to the orcs. The unknown person hands the main character a vessel, saying that he needs it. There is a potion in the vessel. Jin-Kan looks at the man in surprise. Players stand in front of him, ready to provide their help. They offer to meet. The man in the hat knows that Jin-Kan is the commander of the Special Forces Red Bat. He invites the main character to look at his profile on his own. It's annoying for an unknown person to introduce himself. Jin-Kan's face expresses surprise. The profile shows the name Johan. He is a sun elf and commands the Special Army Cold Snake. Johan smiles and asks the main character if he is going to continue to remain silent. He tells him to hurry up and get the potion because his arm is already hurting. Jin-Kan looks indignantly. He didn't expect to hear this voice. He is angry because of his appearance, but Johan continues to hold out the vessel with the potion as if nothing had happened, expressing satisfaction from the meeting and acquaintance. One of the players is standing next to Chirai. He is surprised by the appearance of the Special Forces commander. Chirai asks what does this mean. The guy replies that during the season only 5 top ranks receive such a title in the clan. Their name consists of flowers and animals. This title confirms that you are a top player. Special units commanders have almost the same strength as a raid boss. The commanders leave Jin-Kan, followed by a huge pile of defeated monsters. Since the surrounding area has now been practically cleared, Johan suggests holding a top players meeting and determining who will lead the groups, as well as talking about a raid attack. The strongest players listen to his speech. The players gathered in a small group, surrounded by mountains of dead flamingos. Piles of stones and cracked granite of towers and columns indicate a recent battle. The name is Healer. The girl is treating one of the wounded. They ask her why she doesn't use her skills. Someone's hand is healed by applying a bandage. Kirai learns to heal using her skills. One of the players helps her, explaining the main points. The wounded are lying on the ground. Some are missing a leg, some are missing an arm. The healers leaned over them, helping them. There are not enough bandages and potions. Someone asks for an elixir instead of a potion. Jin-Kan drinks the liquid from the container Johan gave him. He winces at the taste of the potion. He thinks it looks like a cheap cold medicine. The main character's profile shows that his HP has been completely restored. He is delighted with the amazing effect of the potion. Leaning back, Khan realizes that he feels renewed after dying several times. Legionnaires sit in panic and fear near their wounded comrades. Because of the previous attack, everyone is shocked and confused. Shirai runs up to the main character and calls him in an excited voice. The girl wants to examine his wounds, but Jin-Kan waves him off, smilingly saying that thanks to the elixir, and the fact that he is undead, he has fully recovered. Johan approaches them, pleased with the effects of his elixir. This is a big relief for him. Pointing back, he says to hurry up. Jin-Kan remains silent to what he heard. Kirai is scared. Having gathered the strongest, Johan begins a meeting to attack the Temple of Kasarax. The surrounding magicians listen to him. Kirai whispers, asking why she is here. Jin-Kan tells her to just listen. Shingle watches them, remaining silent. Johan kindly shows a map of their location and says that during the dimensional rift they ended up in a place that is famous for its intricate labyrinths and an abundance of high-rank bosses. Participants in instance dungeons usually work together to win. However, the problem now is limited time. The players have only 22 minutes left. With a polite smile, Johan voices that they have to clear all floors of the dungeon in 22 minutes. To completely complete the dungeon, you need to get rid of the raid boss Kasarax. The girl with red hair sums it up by asking the question of the need to separate all the people into groups and send them to certain areas. The player's profile is displayed. This is Kim Soyeon under the nickname Marsla. She is the commander of the Special Forces, Scarlet Tiger Squad. Shingle is not sure about Johan's plan. He thinks that they will be killed in one moment as soon as they meet with the elite boss. A girl with purple hair and a sly squint tells him that simply fighting and suffering huge losses is not a good idea. This is Guo Yuna, commander of the Purple Fox Special Forces. Mages believe that they are not obligated to save everyone. They should just choose useful people and take them with them. Marsla listens doubtfully. Shingle lowers his head thoughtfully. I'm still waiting for Johan's opinion. He smiles mysteriously. Kirai asks if they really want to leave the injured players here to die. Jin-Kan drooped and lowered his head. Johan states that not everyone will make it out alive anyway, and that in this situation it is worth choosing a more effective path. The magicians surrounded the Sun Elf and listened to him carefully. Jin-Kan protests, saying that the magicians did not think of other options. He is surprised that they think the game will allow them to be revived after death. The scheme with a two-way server is similar. They can filter out all the unsuitable ones and leave only the useful ones. He remembers footage where the girl did not use her skills. Full of determination, the main character says that everyone is the same, since everyone came from Noryangjin and they have no right to judge other people's skills. Johan smiles at his remark. Shingle strikes towards the main character. Jin-Kan barely dodges. The commander-in-chief of the Blue Jackal army is surprised that Khan thinks about other people in a similar situation. Shingle quickly gets angry, shouting that the people who got scared and ran away at the first opportunity will not give them any help. He believes that they are not worth caring about. During a heated argument, a strange sound is heard. Both Shingle and Jin-Kan freeze in place. Everyone is tense. The main character assumes that these are monsters. Marsla is worried and says that the dungeon cannot be activated until it is entered. Yun had a worried expression on his face. Johan calls to look at the map. Everyone turns to him. Apparently, things are different now. Marsla can't believe her eyes. The map shows that all the monsters are coming towards them. Jin-Kan, turning to Johan, says that this is no longer a game and it is not surprising that everything does not go according to plan. Turning to the other mages, he tells them to move forward, promising to clear the way. Marsla and Shingle listen intently to his words. Yuna smiles lightly. He does not agree that only 40 people should be left alive. He is ready to save everyone who wants to live. Gathering all his strength, he says that he will make the exit himself. Monsters quickly find themselves within the dungeon, launching an attack. The legionnaires are confused and run away. There are noticeably more monsters than last time. The thunder arrives with them. People drag the wounded back. Some run away cowardly, not intending to help. The magicians do not know where the commanders are, and because of this they become doubly afraid. The guy with the huge tusks tells them to stop whining. His friend runs alone towards the monsters. He's going to stop them. His powers begin to activate when he remembers the protagonist's words about imagining his skill. He hits one of the monsters with a powerful attack. An explosion occurs. The guy with orange hair continues his attack. Distracted, he turns to his teammates and brags. He is glad that he looks like his character. His friend, who is helping the wounded, yells at him. A flamingo appears behind the brave guy, ready to destroy him. The magician freezes in panic. Suddenly the flamingo is struck by a strong blow that sweeps away everything around it. After a successful attack, Jin Khan turns to the daredevil, saying that he will be the commander of his squad. The guy asks again in surprise. The main character, fighting off the attacks of monsters, tells everyone that monsters are coming out of every corner, and that in addition to the usual ones, high-ranking bosses are coming to them. The guy with orange hair is shocked by what he heard. Jin Khan calls on those with power to protect healers and help them choose. Monsters approach those who are carrying the wounded. The main character asks if the essence of his words is clear to everyone. A guy with orange hair runs to help. Seeing that people continue to run away, he shouts at them and asks if they are going to run to the end of Mappa. The main character says that he will not protect them all. People froze in a stupor. If they die, Khan doesn't care whether they die or not. During his tirade, someone confidently runs towards the monsters. Shingle destroys several flamingos at once. The main character concludes that he will do everything to ensure that those who listen to him live as long as possible. A powerful stream of Shingle power sweeps throughout the dungeon. He continues to exterminate the revived flamingos. The magicians are starting to get angry. They decide to use their skills and are confident that as long as their commanders are alive, they have a chance to return home. But on the battlefield, some are still not going to stop their escape. Jin Khan, smiling with satisfaction, orders the tanks to return to their positions and surround the wounded players. Tanks fight back against monsters while healers help the wounded. Players under the command of the main character stand in the center in the main barrier and attack. They are surrounded by monsters. Healers, using their magic, help tanks not to fall while they are fighting. Kirai consoles herself by saying to herself that she will succeed. At that time, her strength was running out. The survival of healers and tanks is in the hands of the deity. They do everything possible to destroy the creatures. An intense battle ensues. Marsla, Johan and Yuna stand on 3 pillars, watching the battle. Yuna sarcastically notes that the jackal was apparently so bored that he decided to intervene. Johan is seriously watching the progress of events. The commander of the Purple Fox continues that it is not for nothing that Shingle takes 6th place in the world rankings and received the title of commander. Johan smiles and replies that he doesn't know. A huge stream of power passes by the main character and breaks the ring of magicians. An unknown creature appears from a cloud of energy. Everyone is scared. An unknown monster attacks the tanks, destroying the first row. Everyone realizes that this is the boss of the Cassarax raid. He activates all his power. Everything around him falls apart. Everyone is ordered to run away. The healers stand, unable to move from fear. They are annoyed that they could not understand that the boss appears immediately after the start. Everyone is shocked by the appearance of the raid boss Cassarax. A voice is heard announcing that they will be sacrificed for the Temple of Thunder. Jin Khan's magic resists the boss. He shoots him with a pistol. Everything is illuminated by a powerful force. While fighting, the main character gives the order to everyone to gather to destroy the boss. Raid boss Cassarax strikes back. In panic, the legionnaires begin to run further away from the battlefield. They don't want to fight crazy monsters. Kirai is worried about Khan. Her partner tells her that they need to do what they were ordered. The main character uses all his energy in battle. Raid boss Cassarax looks invincible. Their attacks collide and turn into one powerful bolt of magic. But the boss's power turns out to be stronger. It knocks Khan off his feet. He doesn't give up and continues to attack. His hits damage the boss. In response, the raid boss Cassarax uses a powerful attack that hits the main character. A strange space appears behind the magicians, but no one notices him. The guy with orange hair says that until the red bat defeats Cassarax, they need to survive, no matter what the cost. The magicians fight back against flamingos and other monsters. Everyone tries their best, using their skills in the fight. Many die from the jaws of flamingos. Healers continue to help, covering the attackers. Jin Khan realizes that monsters caught in the game will regenerate over time. Once he defeats Cassarax, he will have to keep the mobs alive until he can deal with them. Otherwise, they will begin to be spawned again. The main character tries to resist the boss. Johan notes that if the player does not complete the task according to the conditions of the system, then the passage will not be counted. Raid boss Cassarax hits the enemy. Jin Khan thinks that this is reality, not a game. But Johan feels that no matter how hard he tries, it won't help him. The raid boss makes another thunder attack. Jin Khan is paralyzed. Flashes of lightning strike at different points, hitting players. The main character is exhausted. But the raid boss continues to advance, destroying everyone around him. People are screaming for help. Thunder mobs are chasing legionnaires. More and more people are dying in the jaws of flamingos. Jin Khan is boiling. The raid boss Cassarax is preparing for a new attack, gathering all its power. One of the healers says that this is all a trick. Ki-Rai doesn't understand and asks again. They both have a worried look on their faces. The guy explains to Chi-Rai that there is a special pattern that can be destroyed by performing a certain action. Heavy thunder is Cassarax's method of destruction. Those around you cannot interfere in the battle in any way. Jin-Kan prepares to take down the boss by loading his gun. With all his might he strikes the raid boss. He tries to finish him off with all his magic. An explosion occurs, causing everything around to fly apart. Cassarax's severed arm falls to the floor. Jin-Kan quickly distances himself from the monster and the explosion. The raid boss raises his remaining hand, intending to continue the battle. The main character approaches him. It deliberately destroyed his arm, creating a gap and weakening the damage in order to prevent heavy thunder. This is an annihilation weapon that covers the entire map, and at the end the damage increases as the player turns to iron. Approaching him, Khan thinks that he will be able to crush all the firepower of the boss and neutralize him. The raid boss is consumed by the main character's magic. He uses his skill, giving it his all. One of the legionnaires shouts that Khan has deceived them and they will all die. One of the healers turns around in alarm towards the fight. At the same moment he is attacked. An unknown magician saves him, repelling the attack of a thunder mob. He tells the healer to pull himself together if he doesn't want to die. The guy sits scared behind his savior while he fights. Ki-Rai worries about Khan, hoping that everything is okay with him. The arena bursts into flames and everyone runs away from the epicenter. Ki-Rai desperately wants her friend to survive. The raid boss resists Khan's attack. He tries his best to hold the monster back, marveling at its strength. Cassarax looks invincible. Thunderclaps are heard again on the battlefield. They hit everyone in the area, giving no mercy to anyone. Everyone runs for cover, but their path is blocked by animated flamingos. Ki-Rai and the others look at the towering monster in fear. With its huge mouth, the flamingo destroys all people. There are more and more of them. They are spreading throughout the arena. Legionnaires have nowhere to run. A powerful stream of thunder energy shoots out from Cassarax's eye. Jin-Kan holds back the onslaught, gradually retreating due to the pressure. He directs his magic at the monster, thinking to himself that there is just a little more left. He sends another strike towards the raid boss. He accumulates energy for a retaliatory attack and hits the main character. The thunderous force struck down Jin-Kan. Ki-Rai looks at this, panic from what she saw takes over her. She runs towards the guy, ignoring the warnings. The raid boss Cassarax appears in all its power while the main character gathers the remnants of his strength. The monster is about to attack again. Khan silently awaits his fate. Ki-Rai calls him over. She runs to him, promising to help. The main character exhaustively tells her not to come here. The boss attack is aimed at the main character. Ki-Rai is almost close to him. White ceiling. Jin-Kan tries to open his eyes. With a sharp movement he takes a sitting position. Johan stands next to him and says that he thought that he would never wake up. The main character turns to him. Johan announces the end of the selection and notes with a grin that he fought as if he really wanted to die. Johan considers him lucky. Smiling, Johan continues, saying that this place is safe and he doesn't have to worry. The room looks like a regular apartment. Jin-Kan looks at the profile in confusion. The Sun Elf tells him not to worry about his girlfriend. Chi-Rai entered Cassarax's attack range, but ended the quest before he could attack her. The profile shows that no raid squad has been recruited. Perspiration runs down the main character's cheek. Johan doesn't know if what happened is related to the fact that there are only 40 people left. And he adds that even if they had not defeated Cassarax, the quest would have ended anyway. Before he can finish his sentence about the survivors, Johan is pinned against the wall. Jin-Kan grabs him by the tie and yells at him to shut his mouth. He believes that it should have been Johan and the other commanders. The elf objects. He talks about the improbability that all the commanders remained alive. In his opinion, if everyone else had rushed to fight, the result would have been the same. The main character looks at him angrily. Johan straightens his tie and leaves. In his opinion, initially all the conditions were impossible, so any efforts in this regard would be useless, because in the end one would still have to fulfill the conditions of the system. He throws over his shoulder that now he and the main character will see each other more often, and he is looking forward to kind cooperation. Johan disappears as a worried Ki-Rai runs into the room. Tears appear in her eyes. Jin-Kan looks at her affectionately. They hug. The protagonist's face expresses peace, but then it becomes overshadowed by pain. Selection for raid groups has been completed. Fierce battle after 5 hours of fall in Seoul. The city of Suwon is on fire. Streets, houses, cars are on fire. The military is trying to resist the monsters. A huge monster is heading straight towards them. Someone asks about reinforcements, saying they won't last that long. The radio transmits information to headquarters that a huge number of monsters are approaching. They are asking to send reinforcements. The military and tanks continue to resist. The headquarters says to hold out a little longer, while the commander-in-chief reports that the entire second line of defense has fallen and neither weapons nor grenades are effective. An unknown monster flies up to him from behind. In an instant he decapitates him. The headquarters continues to say to hold on, but there is no one to answer. The main character recalls recent events, the invasion of flamingos, the atrocities of thunder mobs, the suffering of people. He asks why it has come to this. He was just a second-year student, he just liked to play games. Before him is the image of his character. He reflects on who gave hope that the game would become a reality. He understands that he was mistaken and did not want anything like this. He sees the deaths of ordinary people. He realizes that he is responsible. He wakes up screaming. He sees a picture of legionnaires quarreling. Someone raised a sword to the one who is on the side of the monsters. For those who survived the Battle of Sasarax, much has changed. Jin Khan squeezes his head trying to get rid of uninvited thoughts. A massacre begins in the corridor. Opponents blame each other. One of the attackers tells the other that Ereshkigal sent him here to lock everyone up and watch them. The other replies that this is stupidity and asks him to calm down. Some legionnaires experienced severe panic, which caused glitches. They hid in a corner and repeated that they did not want to die and wanted to go home. Most simply could not come to their senses, or were simply speechless. Only their body remained alive, but not their mind. As a rule, they sat immobilized, looking into space or hugging themselves with their arms. Kirai watched the quarrels and chaos around her trembling. Jin Khan felt sorry for her. She still could not recover from the shock. Her eyes were widened from the shock she had experienced. Sitting next to her, the main character thinks that there is no time to rejoice at the fact that he barely survived. We must wait for the next battle. People are gathered in a temporary garrison of the Heavenly Fury camp outside Seoul. A large room with high ceilings and conflicting and distraught people. Jin Khan leaves the camp trying to light a cigarette. The lighter is broken. Another appears next to his face. Someone offers help. The guy lights a cigarette from Johan's lighter. The elf asks about the well-being of the main character. Jin Khan looks depressed. Lighting a cigarette, Khan says that he can't be okay, because he saw how people died in batches before his eyes. The moon illuminates their figures. Johan laughs, surprised that he can speak well. Khan gets angry, hinting that he is actually talking about a recent situation. The elf agrees conciliatorily. They look at the city captured by fire. Johan thinks that there is a beautiful view from here. The main character does not like the tone with which the elf speaks about the disaster. Johan tells him not to be so harsh, because he can only see all this because he survived. Jin Khan listens to him without hiding his disgust. Crossing his arms, Johan recalls the saying of the Dutch philosopher. He quotes that people's lives are like a board game. Johan remembers his graduation from university and gives the example that there is such a game as life, in which you study hard, go to university, then choose your career and workplace. Memories from Johan's past emerge, where he gets a position. His colleagues are happy for him. These are the basic rules and strategies of the game called life. Those who decide to follow different rules are usually called losers. Johan suggests that from now on you consider that the game you play has changed. From the game life it turned into the game Manhwa. The elf smiles at his thoughts, holding a cigarette in his hand. Now people just need to follow the rules in order to survive. Jin Kong's face constricted in pain and despair. Kirai sits alone with his head down. In an angry outburst, the main character clutches the elf's shirt, intending to hit him. He swears at him and doesn't understand whether he really doesn't realize how many people died. The main character begins to become possessed by his character. He thinks it all started with the dungeon and notices that Johan looks like he's so happy about everything that's happening. The sun elf smiles madly. Khan asks why he is smiling, because the game has become a reality. His magical power accumulates around the hero. He continues to get angry and tells Johan not to carry such nonsense. Seething with anger, he shouts that there are no saves or revivals, and if you die, it's the end. Johan brings his face closer to Khan and asks if he is sure of his words. The elf changes his face and says that he played the game, giving up his life, until he got into the top 6 of the world. Jin Khan clenches his teeth in rage. Johan wants to point out that things are bad. The moon gradually disappears above the clouds. You can barely make out the figures on the roof. Johan always wondered why he wasted his time on this game and regretted the time he wasted. He asked himself whether he should waste his life behind a monitor. The elf grabs the protagonist's hand. It seems to him that if Minil is real, then he is much more interesting than life. There is so much fun and so much to do. Johan looks furiously and asks for Jin Khan's opinion, addressing him as the commander of the Red Bat. The protagonist's character finally takes possession of him. Jin Khan intends to repeat his words again. He angrily tells him that this is not a game, starting to scream. Suddenly another energy appears. The hero moves away, perplexed. Johan pointedly shakes off the place where Khan was holding him and talks about the possibility of continuing the dialogue another time. Their gazes intersect. Johan expresses hope that the hero will survive until they meet. The city of Suwon continues to burn in flames and collapse. Mysterious lights appear in the middle of the street. The heroes are teleported to the very center of the disaster. Everyone is scared and does not know their exact location. One magician notices that only 8 people have arrived, asking where the others are. There is indignation. Kirai covers her mouth with her hands at what she saw. Jin-Kan becomes clear. The corpses of people are pierced and hang as if on wires against the backdrop of a blazing fire. Military, civilians, cars are scattered in different corners or simply lying on the road. Masha asks in shock where they are now. The question of whether there really was no one left alive hung anxiously in the air. An unknown person appears behind Kirai and Jin-Kan, saying that all the city soldiers have been killed and the city has lost its fighting ability. A huge magician in armor is the commander of the army of Iron Blood, Luxus. He is a raid boss. Some people still survived, barricaded in the premises. The raid boss gives the order to kill every single person in the city. Jin-Kan lowers his head. All the magicians are shocked by the announced order. Profiles with a task are displayed in front of them, the content of which plunges them into a stupor. They contain an order for the immediate cleansing of the occupied city of Suwon. Only 12 people. Crazy-eyed Luxus says that killing all people is their first priority. The magicians stared at the task in confusion. They were surprised that someone could still be alive. Jin-Kan stands motionless with a fierce expression on his face. In front of him, a bloodied girl asks for help. She begs to be saved. There is a shadow on the main character's face. He realizes that the city of Daejeon will be their vanguard. Meanwhile, the mission shows that one person has died. All the magicians are amazed at what they heard. They could not even imagine that someone could survive here. One of the legionnaires, holding his head in fear, asks what will happen if they do not clear the city. He is sure that in this case they will be killed. Chirai covers the dead woman's eyelids with her hand. She turns to Kan and asks about the next course of action. The main character is still silent. Jin-Kan activates the Dead Eye ability, which can increase visual acuity, allowing you to see opponents and their vulnerabilities, and also increases the likelihood of inflicting critical damage. He checks all nearby areas. It turns out that a group of schoolchildren led by their teacher remained alive. Kan gets angry, realizing that he will have to kill children. The protagonist's internal struggle is interrupted by the voice of one of the magicians. Survivors were found. Jin-Kan turns fiercely towards Jin, the sniper girl. She says that they can barely see them, but apparently they are close. The barely surviving building is a school. There is blood in the corridors, broken glass. Corpses of teachers and staff litter the streets. Class 1-4. It was there that the last survivors remained. The children ask if their mothers will come. The teacher looks at the phone screen, checking the time. She sighs hopelessly. Suddenly someone bursts into the classroom. The woman hides the frightened children behind her. The mages stand in front of a small group of survivors. The player in the red cloak counts those present. The genie is horrified that there are children here. Trying to cover the crying schoolchildren, the teacher begs at least the children. The main character reflects that from the very beginning it was a disastrous business. He remembers his conversation with Yo and is convinced that the game is pointless if all the conditions are not met. Those who do not fulfill the conditions of the task will simply die. One of the magicians does not understand what everyone is waiting for and calls for an end to the matter as soon as possible. The man with the red cloak tells him not to talk about it so easily, because 10 of those who need to be killed are children. He believes that this cannot be done, no matter what is at stake. Another magician angrily turns to him, saying that these people are doomed anyway and there is no way they can save them. The red-haired guy expresses regret that he got involved in this matter. Kirai looks at him questioningly. He says that he completely agrees with Jing'an. He remembers the mutilated bodies of the dead, believing that this is a warning. Such is the fate of the weak. Nobody needs a weak person, neither friend nor enemy. He continues, explaining to Kirai that he chose this quest because it sounded ominous. His friend remarks that it would be better if they went to the dungeon. The discussion is interrupted. Jin-Kan comes to the center. Suddenly the walls of the building shake and the wind rises. Luxus looks out of the hole. He is at a loss why the mission has not been completed yet. Jin'an heads towards the survivors, intending to kill them himself. He shouts, saying that there is chaos everywhere, and they decided to create an ethical consensus. He is angry because everyone is good at killing monsters, but they cannot raise their hand to injure people. The teacher looks at the approaching magician in fear. Everyone froze in anticipation. Jing'an is getting closer to the children and raises his hand to strike under the watchful gaze of the raid boss. The survivors froze in anticipation of death. A shot rings out. The magicians continue to watch. The teacher is trembling with fear, his eyes closed. Jin-Kan points the gun to the side while holding Jin'an's weapon. Luxus becomes furious and asks in a menacing tone what he is doing. The main character shouts to Miguel and Jingy to raise their shields. They flinch in fear. Jin-Kan attacks the raid boss. He hits it with all his magic. The shockwave rolls for several kilometers between houses. The main character takes another swing, using all his energy. There is a flash of fire. The flame grows more and more, dust and a huge whirlwind rise. Miguel and Ginny, observing the sudden turn of events, call him crazy. All the legionnaires can't believe that he single-handedly attacked the raid boss. Some of them ask if this meant that they too would die. The genie and the others are overcome with fear. Nothing is visible in the fiery whirlwind. The only iron rule of Chinjol is that the strong devour the weak. Jin Khan pins Luxus' body to the ground. The raid boss is indignant, saying that he will not obey the orders of someone weaker than him. The main character presents a gun to the head of the raid boss. Luxus, as commander-in-chief of the Iron Blood Corps, demands Rakshal. Rakshal is a one-on-one duel to the death native to the Chinjol tribe, the outcome of which is decided by brute force. The winner takes everything, including the opponent's life. No one is allowed to interfere during the fight. A warning appears on the table. You disobeyed the commander-in-chief of the Iron Blood Corps, Luxus, and were summoned to Rakshal. High-rise buildings engulfed in fire are falling. Jin Khan fights the raid boss, making several attacks at once. In the radius of the battle, everything is turned into splinters. Powerful blows fly everywhere. Fire rages in the very center. Miguel uses the shield, protecting the mages and urging them to keep their heads down. Miguel uses the skill Flawless Phalanx, and Jingy uses Divine Harmony. In the middle of the fight, Jingy wonders how Jin Khan knows his name. Kirai protects the peaceful vests. Jinyon is confused that the main character decided to fight with the commander-in-chief. He thinks he's crazy. Kirai looks towards the fight, covering the crying children and teacher. The magicians are running to help. They are sure that he cannot cope with the raid boss alone. Jin Khan knocks down Luxus with one blow. There is a powerful flash of energy. Luxus tries to resist the attack. Jingyun doesn't understand what happened. He asks about the crimson bat that was able to stun the raid boss. Jin Khan continues to attack. The players are amazed that Kon used the crimson bat. This is a world-class player. Looking at the profile, Jingy adds that he even has a unique title, Universal Player. Luxus' HP drops, due to the fact that the boss does not know his movements. Perhaps the protagonist has a chance to defeat him by attacking unpredictably. The sky over Jin Khan turns purple-blue. Luxus stores energy to strike. Jin Khan activates the rogue's special ability, Pitch Darkness. It hides the player's body for a short period of time, applies a cleanse and teleports. During the fight, Khan realizes that this material is iron blood and it has finally appeared. The sword is filled with unknown power. The main character understands that now the real game has begun. A concentration of powerful energy flares up above the raid boss. Iron Blood Corps Commander Luxus activates the second phase. Luxus's chest area is noticeably pierced by the main character's attack. A notification appears in your profile about the spread of the erosion debuff. It gradually burns the enemy's mana and with a certain probability imposes a cleansing buff on the target. Raid boss Luxus becomes ferocious, brimming with power. Scarlet energy gathers around Jin Khan. He uses the rogue's special ability, Cold Blood. The skill is intended for special cases when mistakes are unacceptable. It activates all of the assassin's senses, causing each time the player deals damage with an ability to gain a charge. Each charge increases attack speed and critical damage. Maximum of 6 charges possible.